Flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meeting Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Augusta, Branchville, Lafayette, and Sussex post offices, and notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, and the Clerk of the Boroughs of Branchville and Sussex, and the townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Wantage. Mission statement. Hypo Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. Roll call.
Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Rancliffe?
Here.
Mr. Dunn is not here. Mr. Keel?
Present.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Morangi?
Here.
Mr. Dunn is not here. Mr. Carrazza?
Here.
Ms. Nugent?
Here.
Dr. Ripley?
Here.
Okay, do we have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing no one opposed, we'll move to executive session. Motion to go back to public session?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing nobody opposed, we'll move back to public session. We'll start off with the, sorry about that. We'll start off with any unfinished business. No unfinished business. Approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes, regular meeting minutes, June 17th, executive session 1, June 17th, executive session 2, June 17th, and special meeting minutes, June 24th. Look for motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Rancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Carrazza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Keel?
Yes. Public comments. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, we will open the public comments for agenda item only at this time. Each speaker should state his or her name and address. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by me. We will limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. Please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. Any public comments? Seeing no public comments, we'll go to our presentations. Ms. Mancuso?
Yes. Yes. Oh, please. I've been working out. I'm 56 years old. I'm trying to get into shape. My brother's 77, and we're all dying. Okay, now. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for your service. I just got a phone call and invitation for a GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, from Kittatinny High School, and they're reaching out to us as a board and our association as far as being exemplary as far as leading how this should go. So I would just like to say, I am honored, but I wasn't the first one who put this forward. GSA was, Gay Straight Alliance had been put forward when Mr. Youngman was here, and it was a struggle. And to be honored for somebody to say that the principal of Kittatinny High School says, reach out to High Point because we want to emulate what you have done is an honor. And I have to at least honor Mimi Fenlon and the rest of our people before us and myself to have brought this forward. So this is what our action will be doing. It's very interesting. It's not my agenda in life, but this is where we need to stand as far as where we need to know when there's transgender kids coming out. We have policy for state policy, but I think we need to open the lines of communication. If somebody wants to be called he, she, and when their name change goes on, we need to open up the lines of communication because this is where it falls short. It's very difficult today, and I'm not an expert on this, and it's very difficult for, when I was growing up, it was gay, lesbian. Now we have LGBTQI. So, like I said, I am not the expert, but I think this is a great outreach where we can go forward, and I know Mr. Talmay will help us in this, and I know Dr. Ripley will help us going forward. But like I said, these are times where there's no black and white anymore, and we are not the experts anymore. It's the children that are leading this. So this is where we stand, and I'm very grateful that I know we have a board that will support our reaching over to the Kittatinny and going forward, because we can be the leaders on this, and I appreciate all your efforts. As far as what's going on in HPEA, we're looking forward to the new school year. We are so glad that we resolved our negotiations and moving forward. And looking forward to committing to all of us helping our students be successful. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Principal's report?
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see it's a lot cooler in here than it is outside.
Yeah.
So the football team wrapping up their workout, and I said it's going to get hotter. So get ready. So thank you to Carla for that communication and obviously the help.
It just happened.
Absolutely. So whatever we can do to help, we're here to support that. Thank you to the board and to our staff for another successful graduation and project graduation. A couple of days with the weather obviously not being ideal and being inside, but again, a very nice ceremony, and I just want to again applaud Janet Brummel for her work on that major undertaking for graduation, which usually she starts talking about that in December, and I'm like trying to figure out what we're talking about, but then she keeps me on track, so thank you very much to her. Thank you to our administrative staff, secretarial staff, custodial staff, IT staff, maintenance and ground staff for all their work in July and August. A lot of the things, and some of your work in school districts know that, but a lot of things that happen in September and June are taken care of in July and August, and some of that stuff is not seen. So I just wanted to applaud them. We'll talk about that more later on, but so we're ready to go. As Carla said, for September, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes, and it truly is a team effort for that to happen. And oftentimes, not necessarily unappreciated, but sometimes unnoticed because it's just what happens, right? Our staff, student, and parent communications, the opening of the new Alden out. They're going to go on August. We continue to use Genesis as a nexus of communication, trying to get more and more for that to be a central hub. As we're growing as a school district, so is the community, with using that more and more. What I mean by that is all the online forms and all those things that have to be completed. It makes it more efficient on our end to be able to use a vehicle like that, and the community is getting more aware of that and whatnot. So we're growing each year in that, and I think that we're seeing a lot of growth with that. We'll have additional communication that will go out later in August from me, which will be to the staff and to the students to the parents. And that will be regarding religious to open the school year, open a couple of days, kind of what to follow, and the process that will take place later in August. May send it too early. I think Mr. Town is nuts, and he's thinking about next school year, and I'm trying to enjoy summer vacation, so I will wait a little bit longer in August for that. Another thing in September that we're going to be trying this year is the first 2 school days, opening a school. There has been a lot of schools that have tried this, which built around relationships. Our staff is fantastic at building relationships with our students. We want to foster that and build upon that. So instead of sometimes the first couple days being about curriculum all the time and just the rules and guidelines in the classroom, we want to get to know the kids more and more and more. So our first 2 days, we're going to focus more on student building relationships. We're going to give our staff the tools to do that. Many of them are doing it on their own already. We want to encourage that growth and continue that growth. And we want to build upon what we already have in place and infuse that, integrate that into our first couple of days. So it may not be the sole focus, but it's an intentional focus. Build upon that for the growth. And that fits in with all of our vision. Without relationships, it doesn't matter what we do, period. And that's just my personal opinion, but I believe that's strong. We have to go on relationships with the students. It doesn't matter what great curriculum we're going to put in place or what initiative we're going to have until we have that relationship. So we're going to try that. Again, build upon what we already do on a regular basis and expand upon that for this year. Also like to thank Dr. Ripley and the board for supporting my professional growth. I'll be heading out to my National Principal Conference tomorrow. And I've been able to do that with Dr. Ripley's and the board's support for the past couple of years. It absolutely, hands down, is the best professional growth that I've ever had in my entire educational career. I've networked with people from Australia, from all across the country, that I now become social media colleagues with, and able to network and reach out to really in a second's notice, like a question or something that's going on, reach out to them and have that. The strands that you can focus on are everything from data, curriculum, and this year's big focus is SEL, mental health. And I think that it's going to be great because there's some really great workshops around that as well. So I just wanted to thank the board and Dr. for the support of that. But hands down has been the best growth that I've seen for myself, and hopefully then for the school. That's the goal in turn when I bring that back. Mrs.
Where are you
Brummel,
going?
it's in Boston this year.
Ah.
So we're driving out. Mrs. Brummel's always nervous when I go to the conference because I'm usually texting her and emailing her about 3 hours in with my ideas of what I'm going to do. So she's always nervous when I come back the first day because it's going to be, we have our annual meeting and she's like, all right, get the pen and pad out, here we go. What are we going to work on? But I always bring a lot of that back and turn it out to the administrative team as well as to the staff. So many things.
What is that through, may I ask?
So it's NASSP
Oh, okay.
is the, but it's, they combine that. And now it's the National Principal Conference, and they do elementary, middle school, and secondary all together. NASSP should just be by themselves,
Okay.
which I think was pretty neat. Obviously not as large. Now there's about 3,000, principals from all across the country. Last couple years they combined that. So it's NPC 19 is actually the conference, they call it the Principals Conference, and they combine everybody. Which actually is nice because you get to now integrate with some elementary, middle school principals and realize that there's still some similarities there as well. So you get a little bit of a diverse knowledge on that. Yep, it's a great, and SAP really sponsors it and pushes it. So. Okay, that's all I have for my review. Any questions on any of that? No? Ms. Anderson?
Not
Any
yet.
questions for me?
Not yet. You just wait.
Okay, I'll wait. And honestly, being in July, we don't have any athletic report because we're in the middle of the preseason warm-up. August 12th, I think, is fall sports kicking off besides the captain's practice that are running right now with the heat. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell,
Skip that.
I think we'll do away with the curriculum instruction at this point in time.
That means I can read all the transportation then.
Twice.
Kidding.
All 4 papers.
Oh.
Action items.
All right. Curriculum, instruction, technology. Items number 1 and 2, the faculty attendance rate was submitted to the board, and the suspension report was submitted to the board, and we accepted them. I did, however, get in touch with Mr. Talman.
Yeah.
And I'm ridiculous because I don't have my suspension report in front of me. But what I remember is that it was,
Double.
last year over the year before, it was twice as many.
95 to
It was
50.
Twice as many. It was like astounding. So I just want you to kind of go through it a little bit and
Yep.
explain to us what's happening?
Yep, so to clarify, stand up here, is that okay? It's 95 is the number for this year, that's the year-to-date number. 50 was the year-to-date number for last year, so I think that's what you're talking about, answering in
Yeah.
comparison. So nearly double for that. I want to start by saying that as I started as principal in 2008, the numbers were drastically higher than 95. Our VDRs, which are now called SSDS, so the state changes it to something else, were also drastically higher than they are now. So we've been able to work on that over the course of time. I think that probably a couple things. One is 50 is probably a little bit of a low anomaly, and I think that when we have, this is my personal, Mr. Townley, John Townley, perspective. When we have changed and eroded some of the resources, not for a decision necessarily that you've made, just for the way things are, those proactive measurements will then see a reactive response. And a reactive response ends up being suspensions. And it has nothing to do with, I don't want to, Mr. Van Orden and Mrs. Leduc have done an outstanding, phenomenal job. I don't want to disparage what they've done in any way, shape, or form. Because working with them hand in hand every single day, I've seen how they've handled every situation, how they've thought through every situation. But I do think that when those resources, and I will talk about counseling resources, administrative resources, on-the-ground resources are changed or reallocated over the course of time, that then those proactive measures that would sometimes take place prior to suspension just can't take place. So I think ultimately some of that increase is a result of that. I also think that we had a very, if you look at the numbers, particularly numbers, and I look at these every month just as you do. When you look at these numbers and you say, inappropriate behavior went from 6 to 29, substance use confirmed went to 9, from 9 to 18, non-compliance went from 1 to 6. Those were the
What is non-compliance?
Non-compliance means that a student was sent out underneath the 18A policy,
Okay.
and they tested positive,
Okay.
and they refused to do their counseling, which is required by policy. Even though we've given them a lot of flexibility around there, that number is not nearly as high as the ones we look at inappropriate behavior. The 18As themselves, which means they're tested positive in school or at a school function, and an increase in fights. And I can tell you hardly that me as a principal, I want a positive school culture. And when you have sometimes not as much of those resources on the ground to be proactive, in order to maintain that positive school culture, there's more discipline employed to maintain that same level of school culture. We have the same expectations now as we did 5 years ago. We expect the students to be achieving, right, academically. We expect the students to be behaving and treat each other with respect and acting as citizens to each other and also to the teachers. So sometimes when those resources are there, the discipline has to be employed at a higher level to maintain that student culture versus letting it erode, which we won't allow happen, and allow that negative student culture to drive the positive student culture away. We also, so second answer to that would be, we had a extremely discipline related 9th grade class, more than I've ever seen in my entire time here. I'm not disparaging the 9th grade class as a whole. We had struggled individuals within that class that had 4 to 5 suspensions each. So if you take that out, that would equate to probably, I would say, a 20 or so drop in that number. We've tried everything with many of those students, and again, not disparaging what the guidance counselors are doing, the case managers are doing, the teachers are doing, Todd and Lindsay are doing. We've tried a lot of things with those students. Some we had success with. That in the beginning of the year, they had a couple suspensions, and we got them with resources and support and got them back on track. Some of them did not. Some of them continued to, no matter what we try to do with them. I'm talking lunch restrictions, I'm talking pass coaches, I'm talking bathroom restrictions, I'm talking parent meetings, everything that you could possibly imagine under the sun just didn't work. So I think that also led to some of that increase as well. When you look at the 18As in particular, going from 9 to 18, 50% increase, that's 50% increase overall. Society, our society and our Senate districts, as well as society in general, are dealing with an epidemic. And there is a heavy substance use here in our community. There's heavy substance use in New Jersey and across the nation. If I can only speak about our state, it's a very, very heavy problem. Our county in particular does not have a lot of resources for it, and they're inundated. We have students waiting to get counseling a mandated evaluation from testing positive for a month. And it has nothing to do with them not trying. They can't get in someplace. So we work with that student, obviously, because it's not on them and the parents, it's on the resources. So that is, again, an indicator of what's going on. We have a lot of hurt in some lives of students. And sometimes the discipline is an act-out aspect of that. And it's not really this is a symptom of some of the other things that may be going on. So our goal, our job, our focus, teachers, counselors, administrators, support staff, is to get at the heart of what's really going on with that student. To act out that many times, whether because that's how they're raised the whole time, whether because they have a broken family, whether because they have substance issues themselves. What is it that we can help control and help support them to get that? Because not only does the discipline indicate this, then also the academic side indicates this. It's very few and far between when we have a student that's had a high level of discipline and not a low level academically. Usually hand in hand, a couple anomalies here and there that you'll see that happen. But on the positive side, we're going to continue to reemploy a lot of those resources in room 120 with the counselors that are there. Again, proactive measures to help with that situation. We also see a lot of change in our 9th to 10th grade students and maturity level. That oftentimes happens. We're not banking on that, but that's oftentimes the case as well. And then Todd and Lindsay obviously continue to work with, here's our bar, right, of student expectations. And we're going to help you all along the way and support you to get to that bar, but we're not going to lower that bar of the positive student culture. Why? Because it's not fair to the 95% of the rest of the culture that's out there. Again, you're really talking about even these numbers. If you break down the actual numbers, obviously I'm not talking about particular students, you're less than 5 to 8% of the student population.
Of the total student population.
Yep.
Can I add, may I approach?
Certainly.
We would like for us to work hand in hand as far as the whole, policies are always written, and I'm a reading specialist, nobody reads the policies. So we would, yes, so we would like a coalition of us to be together to say, this is what's gonna happen, this is what we're gonna do, how we are going to ID our populations of need. And we know the freshmen coming in, as you know, are very vulnerable. And I have a problem with my own people, teachers, saying, well, we got rid of levels and we did this and this and this. No, all children are all children, okay? We're all the same, no matter what. So we just need the clarification and maybe making a formation with the board and with John and the superintendent to say, I can't read a 25-page policy. We need to know where we stand walking in day one with the kids, who are our most vulnerable, where it comes in, because, you have special ed, you have regular ed, and you have guidance counselors, and you have child study team members, and this is where we get lost into what is real the standard of how we handle everything, and it should be the same for everybody.
I don't know that that's realistic, though, the same for everybody, because everybody comes with different baggage. It just isn't, I think, I get what you're saying, there has to be there has to be a point where there's an where this is the bar, we're raising the bar.
But our teachers,
But,
I'm talking
yeah.
at HPA, our
Yeah.
teachers don't know what that bar is.
Okay.
Okay? You understand?
So like the school-wide behavior policy plan?
Yes, yes. So what we follow and we communicate, and we're communicating as a community.
Yeah.
Because these are our kids, as a community. I'm not saying it's his fault, their fault.
Yeah.
We need to know how we handle all of this. And I'm sure it's gonna be in place. I'm just saying,
I get
we
what
need
you're saying.
everybody on board to say, society today, forget about it. It's drugs, it's worse than when I was growing up.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the time.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Dennis, hope that answers your questions.
You did a great job.
Always willing to talk more if needed. Okay.
Thank you. You did a great job. Now I'm just going to move items 3 through 5. Item 3 is superintendent recommends that we approve professional development activities. 4 is that we approve curricular field trips, and 5 is that we approve joining with a consortium of Sussex County schools to pursue $185 in Title III funding.
Is that right?
I don't know, that's why I circled it.
Title III is,
Wait, I moved those items. Can I have a second?
second.
Any discussion?
$185?
Is that right? Is that right? Same question, Leanne. What's up with
So it is
$185?
for English as a second language essentially, or to provide literary instruction for children whose native language is not English. The county at large probably only gets about, I don't even know, very little. And so every single year, we deny Title III funds because they are insufficient. And so this year, the superintendent of PACCOM decided he was going to lead the charge for a consortium. We have tried to do this for the last 3 years to no avail, but apparently Art DiBenedetto's had a little more juice than Seamus corporately around the county. And people decided, sure, Art, let's do it. And we only get $185 for Title III. So what we're doing is we're handing that consortium our $185 rather than denying it.
Oh, okay.
So someone will use it.
So we get it. And the paperwork that we had, I think in the past we didn't, I'm really glad we're discussing this. The paperwork that we've had in the past, we didn't file because it wasn't worth all the trouble for the no money we were gonna get.
When you write the grant, you have to click on the radio button that says refuse and then provide the board's resolution stating they refuse the funds.
And now it's worth it because we're putting it into the consortium and then we can access it better. I'm happy
It
to
would
do
be
it on
nice
this.
to say it would be worth it.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I don't know how much it will impact High Point. It may, some other districts, it may impact more than it will likely impact us. But it is an opportunity for us to work with our community schools and participate in the consortium.
Sounds good to me.
I just thought maybe it was a typo. As sad as that sounds.
18.5, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. like-
We would not be joining the consortium if it was 18.5. We would use it ourselves.
Any further questions? Roll call?
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Abstain from 4, yes to the other.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Personnel. Item 1, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the adjusted summer custodial rate of William Smisco to $13 per hour due to his active substitute custodial status effective July 1st, 2019. I need a first since I can't make a motion on it.
Motion.
And a second. Discussion? No discussion, vote?
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Number 2, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the hire of Mr. Stefan McGrath for the position of Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds for the 2019-2020 school year, effective on or about August 1st, 2019, or upon release from current employer, at the prorated salary of $80,000 per year, pending receipt of all required paperwork and criminal history review. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
This is a non-union position, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take a roll call?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Before we go, Mr. Extracurricular, Mr. McGrath? Is that you back there?
Welcome.
Welcome to High Point.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hopefully it's sooner than later. Welcome.
Thanks for coming, congratulations.
Thank you.
Extracurricular. All right,
Did you do number three?
three, what's that?
You didn't do number three.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
What's up?
Number 3, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve summer workshop days as listed in attachment B1.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any questions? Seeing no questions, roll call.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Extracurricular. 1, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves a revision to Kevin Fenlin's extracurricular salary to reflect his head girls soccer coach as an attachment C1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions? No questions, roll call.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. On the rest of them, we're going to move together. Number 2 is it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Todd Van Orden and Brad Wilbur as volunteer assistant football coaches for the 2019 season, excuse me. Number 3, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the cheerleading camp at Pines Forest, Pennsylvania for August 26th to the 29th, 2019. The cost of the district is transportation to and from the camp, attachment C2. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Orthopedic Institute of New Jersey to provide on-field physician coverage for all home varsity football games this upcoming season at no cost to the district, attachment C3. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Christian Petrucci as a volunteer for marching band pending criminal history background check.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Can I disclose?
No, you can't participate in this.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
But thank you.
Even if it's a family member?
You can, but thank you.
Very good.
Any questions? Any other questions? Seeing no questions, roll call.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Policy. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following new policies. Policy 1642, earned sick leave law, attachment D1-1.1, and regulation 1642, earned sick leave law, attachment D1.2.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing no questions, roll call.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes. Negotiations. At this point, we met with the HPAA. We believe we're very close and down to a few items that we were able to discuss tonight and hopefully get it done rapidly because we don't want to go into the school year with an outstanding contract. No buildings and grounds tonight. Finance. On the first 3 items of finance, I need a motion to table. These items have not been fully vetted at this point in time. We don't think it's appropriate to consider them. So do I have a motion to table these one?
Motion to table.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Can I just make a couple points.
Sure.
This is for the June 30th financials. We actually finished these reports this morning with the treasurer, but you guys needed a chance to review them, so we'll put them on the August list, and so you can have a full review of them. There's one item on the board secretary report that takes a lot of review and work. We do about 2,000 purchase orders a year, and come June 30th, if there's any open orders, we have to designate whether the open order is an accounts payable or an encumbrance. And what makes an accounts payable is if the order has been made for a good or service, and the item is in, or the service is completed, but we haven't received an invoice, it's an accounts payable. If the item was ordered or the service was ordered and has not been received or completed yet, that's an encumbrance. So we just go through it. We're very meticulous about classifying each open order. It's something the auditors will review and make sure that we have correct. So thank you for your patience with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments? Roll call.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Morangi,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes. I'm going to move 4 through 9 together. So with 4, it is recommended that the board approves for payment the attached schedule of audited bills dated June 30, 2019 and July 16, 2019. 5, it is recommended that the board accepts the adult education athletic account, principal petty cash, school store, and student account for the month of June 2019, and the agency account and cafeteria account for the month of May 2019. 6, it is recommended that the board approve the board attorney agreement 2019-2020 school year between Highway Regional High School and the Bush Law Group. 7, it is recommended that the board approves the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School receiving and the following districts and related information. And the district institution is Paulsboro School District, and the information is on that. Number 8, it is recommended that the board approves the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School Ascendant and the following districts and related institutions. District institution, Allegro School, Celebrate the Children, Central Park Schools, Lakeland Andover, Chapel Hill Academy, the New Road School, Willow Glen Academy, and on a number of occasions. And number 9, it is recommended that the board grant permission to the High Point Youth Wrestling Camp on John Gardner to host the non-affiliated co-ed wrestling camp K through 8th grade, which will run July 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 2019, during the hours of 9 a.m. to noon. The camp will be self-supporting and will charge $50 per participant. Have a motion on those items?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I would like to clarify that, on item number 5, it says months of May and June.
I was wondering why I said months.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment with regard to the wrestling camp. I just think that's great. Women's wrestling is really expanding, and I think it's great for women to be able to participate and get the support, and High Point to be leading in supporting that. is
College of New
fantastic.
Jersey just instituted it.
I'm sorry?
College of New Jersey.
Just instituted, yeah, it's growing leaps and bounds, it really is. And good for the young ladies. That being said, any other comments? Seeing no comments or questions? Do you want a roll call?
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Morangi,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Yes. Transportation.
Transportation. I'm going to move items 1 through 14. I'm going to outline them a little bit. 1 through 5 are transportation costs for the extended school year program this summer. Different routes. Items 6 and 7 are renewal contract routes, transportation pursuits for the 2019-2020 school year. And items 8 through 10 are school-related activity and athletic trips. Bunch of those. Various days, various costs, lots of pages. I'm now on page 27. Item 11, the joint transportation agreements, as listed. The joint transportations, these are the ones where we are earning money. Is this true?
Yes, an administrative fee.
Okay, we earn money on the joint transportations. I think that's really wonderful. Item 12 is a contract addendum to change some mileage. Item 13 is a parent contract to transport a student. And item 14 is another joint transportation agreement for a student. Moving those items, I need a second.
Second.
Anybody have any questions? Comments? How great it is? Okay, good. Roll call.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Keel?
Yes. Legal, there's no legal items at this time. Correspondence, we have no correspondence on the time. Miscellaneous, does anybody have a miscellaneous item? Seeing no miscellaneous items. Public comments, if you're going to make a public comment, it can be on any item. Please name your name and address before speaking.
I just want to say, I'm playing for the wrestling, and I should hope that one of our female teachers, coaches can be a part of that ongoing effort to pursue. As being a person who always fought to play, equity in play, I think it's very important to have another person involved.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the board recognizing that. Thank you.
All right, no other public comments? Non-committee board member reports or comments? Seeing none? Other business? Jim?
Over requests actually slowed down for once in 3 years last month, so.
Because we started
I
publishing.
hope I didn't just curse us, but.
Okay, so you want to name the reasons?
There were two small items, one for Mr. Robinauer. He wanted to request from Iron Rock Security whether we do business with them. We do not, we have no paperwork, so don't know what he was looking for or asking for. Smart Procure seems to be a out-of-state business that tries to gather information to help their business, and I believe they sell the information at a fee. I looked into this the last time they made an Oprah request, and the answer from Oprah was, yes, you have to respond to it. So I responded to it last time, responded to it this time. I believe they asked for this type of information all over the country, they put it together, and they try and sell it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, a short amount of time provided to them.
Yeah, it took about 10 minutes. They actually sent me a sample of a report they were looking for, and I was able to recreate it.
Okay. We're going to need a motion to adjourn into executive session to review or finalize Dr. Ripley's evaluation. However, before we do that, I'd like to mention that regrettably, or possibly and regrettably, Ms. Anderson no longer has a conflict because her daughter no longer is employed at High Point Regional High School. And I know you haven't participated at all in the evaluations in the past. We would appreciate your input if you have the additional time to join us
I'd
with
be
the
happy to join
evaluation.
you in an executive meeting to that.
All right, then if, do we have a motion to return to executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
opposed? Seeing nobody opposed, we'll resume in the board conference.